Xavi Hernandez's Barcelona must be competitive again, or else this team is not going to be going anywhere in the next season. I'd said something on the community tab on this YouTube channel, and this is what I stated. What I want more than anything at Barcelona next season is a squad where nobody is safe in terms of minutes. No one should be comfortable knowing no matter what happens, they'll be in the starting 11 regardless. Players like Pedri, Gavi, Balde, Kounde, Yamal, Araujo should all feel that their minutes can be in jeopardy if they don't perform. This season, they were more than comfortable. This is why Nico Williams, Xavi Simons, Bernardo Silva, Zubimendi, Mika Faye, Hector Fort should all be included officially in the next season squad. Let them feel the competitiveness because Barcelona have lost this over the past 7 to 8 years. And you may question, Kevin, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by Barcelona losing their competitiveness within this club? And so let's backtrack and let's talk about the history of Barcelona since 2011. Back in the 2011-2012 season, Barcelona were coached by Pep Guardiola. It was so competitive from the inside, it was not even funny. We're not talking about Barcelona being competitive out there in Europe, but to be competitive from the inside, because eventually that does translate to you having success in Europe. But within this club, back in 2011, Barcelona really had something going for themselves. No player was allowed to go onto the field if they gave out 90% of what they could do. If Pep Guardiola knew that you were only performing at 85% or 90%, he will take you out and he will replace you for somebody else. No one was safe at that time and no one had guaranteed minutes. So for example, in the goalkeeper position, Balde was our main starter, but Pinto was somebody who performed many times. He blocked so many shots, he was great on the ball, and at any given moment, Balde could have lost his spot to Pinto. Look at how the center back position was being occupied by Gerard Piqué and Puyol, and the two center backs that wanted their two spots, it was Bartra and Fontas. Bartra and Fontas were performing at such a good level, and at any moment, you can shrug off Puyol and Piqué if they came in and they played only at 85% of their capacity. Luckily for that Barcelona squad, like a lot of these players that actually started within the 11, they never went lower than 100%. They always gave out 110%, always. But the competition was there, and these players, they felt it. When you go into the left back position, we had Adriano, Eric Abidal, and Maxwell. Keep in mind that Adriano was an amazing left back under Pep Guardiola. The way that he scored his goals, the way that he always made those runs and overlapping runs for the left winger, Adriano was that guy. He was also the most versatile, but you can definitely count on that player. Eric Abidal was the main starter for Pep Guardiola's left back position, and Eric Abidal was one of the captains, but again, at any given moment, Adriano could have taken his spot. Same thing goes on with Maxwell. Maxwell came from one of the best Inter Milan sides ever, so his defensive actions were amazing. There was so much competition on the left back position, any of these players would have done well. Going on to the right back position, you had Dani Alves and Montoya. Montoya really couldn't compete with Dani Alves because Dani Alves always gave out 110%. We always saw Alves come in with either an assist, a key pass, or a goal, and he was the best partner for Lionel Messi. But Montoya did okay. The competition was there. Going on to the CDM position, right, the pivot position where we formed the 4-3-3. The lone pivots were Javier Mascherano and Sergio Busquets. Are you kidding me, right? Because let's keep in mind what type of player Mascherano was. These were two great central defensive midfielders. Sergio Busquets had the upper edge though because he really had the brains of football. Mascherano had much more physicality in him. You could really count on him to protect the defense behind him. As a matter of fact, Mascherano became so good in defense that he even competed for a center back spot with Piqué and Puyol. So there was even more pressure for Piqué and Puyol to maintain their spots. And at one point, he took Puyol's spot, and Puyol had to sometimes go into the right back position. And so in some games, we saw Puyol right back, Piqué, Mascherano center back pairing, and Eric Abidal on the left back position. Moving on towards the central midfield position, we had Iniesta, Fabregas, Xavi, Thiago Alcantara, Keita, and Sergi Roberto. Again, Iniesta and Xavi were almost immovable. Fabregas wanted to have one of the positions. He sometimes did, he sometimes didn't, but again, that was the whole point. Pep Guardiola wanted the pressure for Xavi and Iniesta. He knew that Xavi and Iniesta were going to be at world-class levels at all time. Like, he knew that, but he still had the audacity to say, I'm still going to test you to Xavi and Iniesta. You may find that as disrespect, but I will still test you. I will bring Fabregas and I will have him fight for a spot within the 11. Thiago Alcantara also wanted some minutes. Keita always came in for Iniesta. Every time Iniesta got injured, Keita came in and he provided really decent results. And then we had Messi in the false nine position. No one could touch Messi. Messi at that time in 2011, 2012 was a monster. You can bring me prime Maradona or Pelé or Ronaldo Nazario, you were not going to be taking out Messi. So Messi had the false nine position. The left wing options were Theo and Cuenca. If you guys do not know who Theo and Cuenca are, they were two academy products, two academy players. And just think about Theo and Cuenca as two Rafinhas. Two Rafinhas that always gave it their all, always tried to look for the assist. They ran very fast. They had a lot of pace within them. They were great options. And David Villa was in front of Theo and Cuenca. So we had three options, and Villa was the main left-wing option because of the goals that he scored and the connection he had with Lionel Messi. On the right-wing position, we had Pedro, Alexis Sanchez, and Deulofeu. No one was safe on the right-wing position. Anybody could have taken that spot. It could have been Deulofeu, who was one of the great youngsters of that time. Alexis Sanchez wanted to prove a point at Barcelona. He scored that amazing chip goal against Real Madrid. He was showcasing what he could do, and Pedro had to respond to that. So the competition from the inside was really intense. Everybody had to fight for a spot. Some were unsuccessful, some were not. But it showed how great the culture was within Barcelona. It was extremely competitive. Fast forwarding 5 years later or 4 years later, going into the 2015-2016 season, well into Luis Enrique's Barcelona, we saw a glimpse of the fall of Barcelona's competitive edge within the club. For example, yes, we saw Ter Stegen and Bravo compete for a spot for the goalkeeper position. It was amazing to see for a season. And then we had Vermaelen, who was not so great, but he was solid. He wasn't like world class, but he definitely could not shrug off Gerard Piqué and Mascherano. Piqué and Mascherano were basically safe. We have Mateo. I don't know if you guys remember that player, Mateo, who competed with Jordi Alba. Again, Jordi Alba had that spot to himself. There was no way we're going to be starting Mateo over Jordi Alba or putting Mateo at any point of the games when Jordi Alba was there providing 15 assists per season. And then you look at the right back position. Dani Alves had no competition. Like, who are you going to place over Dani Alves? Montoya was not there, and the only option that was there was Douglas, and Douglas couldn't even last one season at Barcelona. It was a mistake that Barcelona did. They thought that Douglas was going to be the next Dani Alves, but it just did not work out. And so Dani Alves had the spot to himself. No matter what he did, even if he played at 80% capacity, that was the only choice Barcelona had. And then we move on towards the pivot position. Who was Sergio Busquets going to compete with? Like who? Sergi Samper? Jared Gumbau? Nothing was going to happen. Like those two players, like yes, they were great youngsters. They were trying to make a name for themselves, and I respect that, but there was no real competition going on with Sergio Busquets' position. They could not find another Mascherano, somebody who was different from Busquets but could take the spot of Busquets at any moment. Busquets had the position to himself. Going on to the central midfield roles, we had Rakitic, Iniesta, and Sergi Roberto. Again, who was going to take out Rakitic and Iniesta? Rakitic was not even that type of like Xavi player, but in some capacity, yes, our midfield level was lowered because of Xavi's exit and because we did not have great depth behind the midfield three. We had Rafinha, we had Wilfred, and we had Alenia. But again, it's nothing compared to what we had under Pep Guardiola. In the front three, Neymar had to compete with Arda Turan. Really? Like, again, like honestly, trying to say that we needed players to compete against the MSN is foul. Because no, you can bring in a prime Haaland and Silva with Kylian Mbappe. That would not start over Neymar, Messi, and Suarez at all. But there was no competition at all for Neymar. It was Arda Turan, and that was basically it. With Messi, he had to compete with Pedro, Munir, and Alex Vidal. Come on, bro. Suarez had to compete with Sandro and Dani Romera. And that's it. Like, no one can shrug the MSN off. No one could have shrugged Busquets, Rakitic, and Iniesta off. No one could have shrugged Alba off, or Dani Alves, or Piqué, or Mascherano. The only real competition I would say was between Ter Stegen and Bravo, and that was basically it. So fast forward to today, Barcelona have none of that. We have lost it completely ever since Luis Enrique left. Like, that was the nail in the coffin. That was it. The competition was gone. I remember back in the 2018-2019 season, we had a great overall starting 11, but there was nothing behind that. Nothing. I'm not trying to backtrack too much, but again, fast forwarding to today, there was nothing. And Xavi is here to regain that back, and hopefully we can do that in this upcoming summer, because when we assess this squad this season, let's talk about the supposedly healthy competition that we have. We have Ter Stegen and Peña. Peña rarely does get any chances. When Peña is there, sometimes he does crumble. He sometimes does make mistakes, and we're like, oh my god, where's Ter Stegen? And we're so hell-bent on Ter Stegen. Kounde, like who? Like, bro, that gets even worse. It's worse than the Dani Alves position, because Kounde has it way better than Dani Alves, because Kounde, like, you can't even name a player that can compete with Kounde right now at all. Like, there's nobody. Cancelo does not even play in that position anymore, and he plays on the left back position. Araujo and Kubarsi, who are you going to replace him with? Tell me. You can say, okay, maybe Araujo and Christensen instead of Araujo and Kubarsi. Christensen moved to the CDM spot, and that is the only CDM we have right now, and he's a center back. If you take Christensen out and you put him in for Kubarsi, we have no pivot. We don't have anything. It's worse than the situation with when we only had Sergio Busquets. It's way worse. In the left back position, I would say that Barcelona have done a tremendous job over the past 3 years in general. Balde and Cancelo were competing for a moment. Unfortunately, Balde got injured, but that is the overall game plan, is to have Balde compete with Cancelo. Last season, Balde did not have it easy. He had to compete against Jordi Alba. Now he has to compete against Cancelo. But in the previous season, Balde had to work hard to make sure that he can justify why he should be starting over Jordi Alba. And that is why Balde is going to be great, is because Balde did not have it easy. Barcelona were not hell-bent on having Balde start. They could have easily said, okay, if Balde is not there, Alba. If Balde is not there, Cancelo. Balde is going to be in the exact same position, in in the next season with Cancelo continuing to be at Barcelona, hopefully. Now, I just want to put it in here. Balde is finally back. He was training on the grass. Everything seems okay. So for sure, Balde will be with us in the preseason. Moving on towards the central midfield position, we have Pedri, Gavi, Gundogan, Frankie, and Fermin. First of all, Fermin Lopez is not at that level or does not provide exactly what Barcelona need in terms of the central midfield position. Of course, Fermin Lopez has his own position and his own role, but still, he is not a Pedri or Gavi or Gundogan. Frankie de Jong is not even a real interior. He is an anomaly. He's somebody that needs a central defensive midfielder next to him to form a double pivot, and so it comes down to Pedri and Gavi. I find it so amazing that Pedri and Gavi find it so easy to be starting in the 11. In the past 2 years, Pedri and Gavi had an easy introduction. They did not have to work hard for nothing. Every time we say when we lose Pedri or Gavi, you can see the difference within the Barcelona team. That thing annoys me. It annoys me to say that it's a different team when Barcelona have Pedri or when they don't, or when they have Gavi or when they don't. It annoys me because how is Barcelona that reliant on two players who are not even 21 years old? I know that Pedri and Gavi know that they do not need to fight hard to go into the 11 because they know that nobody else brings exactly what they bring. This is why in this upcoming summer, I want Barcelona to bring in good competition. I'm okay with Gundogan starting and not really having to earn his place in the 11 this season because he earned it through the years and he earned it through Man City. But to rely so much on a 19-year-old and 20-year-old player, it's almost embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see that we have to beg for these players to start so Barcelona can perform at a high level. That should not be the case. A 19-year-old and a 20-year-old should be fighting for a spot. FC Barcelona is not an Ajax. This is why it's important and why I continue to reference. It's important for Barcelona to sign Bernardo Silva, an interior, somebody who can create and protect the ball. Pedri needs to go into this team seeing Silva and saying, oh my god, my minutes can be taken away within these next 3 years because Silva is providing exactly what I provide. Like, how in the world is Pedri, who came in and out from the hospital, still being an untouched player, an untouchable? I don't understand that. If Iniesta was coming in and out from the hospital, we would have been like, okay, cool, Iniesta is injured, that's fine. We hope that he does recover as soon as possible. Just bring in Fabregas, no worries. And then Iniesta is going to be on fire in a good way, and he's going to want to work back into the 11. But with Pedri, it's not the case. With Gavi, it's not the case. When Xavi thinks that we need to use a false left winger in the next season, for whatever reason, right? Because we don't know what Xavi Hernandez is going to do. It cannot just be Gavi to be called up to play as a false left winger. We need to say, okay, we have Gavi, but we also have Xavi Simons. You two have to work hard to make sure you get a starting role, and we need that. In the front three, we have Ferran Torres, right? Felix and Rafinha on the left wing position. I like that because it seems very, I would say, within the realms of the left back position. There's a lot of competition. Ferran Torres, Felix, and Rafinha can all sit down at whatever moment. But then you look at the other side, which is the right wing position, Lamine Yamal. There is no competition at all. Again, the reason why I want Silva and why he is so needed. It cannot be so easy for a 16-year-old player to be starting in the 11 at all. We cannot be so hellbent. We cannot just say Barcelona's a different team when Lamine Yamal is not there. He's 16 years old. He should be fighting for his life right now to get some minutes in the 11. Competition is needed, my friends, in order for us to be successful, or else these players are going to be getting too comfortable. I would like to bring Real Madrid as an example to this. Look at the type of team Real Madrid have today. Courtois was easily replaced by Lunin. Easily. You look at the center back position. Militao, Alaba, Rudiger, Nacho. All great center backs, and all of them can be replaced at any given moment. Look at the left back position. Mendy, Ferran Garcia. They also want to recoup Alphonso Davies to compete with Mendy and Ferran Garcia. That's insane. If you look at the right back position, we have Carvajal and Lucas Vazquez. Lucas Vazquez just looked like not too long ago like Dembele against Cancelo, and Carvajal had a great game against Man City not too long ago. So there is a lot of competition there. You look at the midfield, especially Tchouaméni, Valverde, Camavinga. When these three players don't perform well, they get replaced by Toni Kroos or Modric. If Jude Bellingham does not perform well, he gets replaced by Camavinga or Tchouaméni or Valverde, whoever. Look at Modric, you name it. Any of these players can lose their spot. You go into the front three, they're going to be having Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Endrick. There is a lot of competition there. Arda Güler is also going to want to have something to say about that. Of course, you can't really sit down Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. when they are on their A game. But again, the whole point is that they can lose their position if they decide to go at 80% by some other players behind them. There is no such thing as, oh, even if I go at 80%, no one can replace me because there is no other player. That doesn't exist at Real Madrid right now. Another example is Man City. Man City is like the prime example of all of this. Look at their center back options. Ruben Diaz, Guardiola, Akanji, Nathan Aki. It's insane. Look at John Stones. The right back position is also occupied by Kyle Walker and Rico Lewis. We can say that they're too reliant on Rodri in terms of their pivot position because no one can replace Rodri. Like if Rodri leaves, whether it's through injury or a transfer, Man City become a different team. But overall, they're very well occupied in many of the other positions. They can still have Mateos and Kovacic to form a double pivot. pivot. In the attack, they still have Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Jack Grealish can lose his spot to Foden or Doku. Haaland can also lose his spot to Julian Alvarez. It's insane. And so like I've said, no one should feel comfortable within Barcelona at all. Players like Pedri, Gavi, Balde, Kounde, Yamal, Araujo should all feel like their minutes could be in jeopardy if they don't perform. This is why I reference we need Nico Williams, we need Xavi Simons, we need Silva, we need Zubimendi, we need Mika Faye, we need Hector Fort. Zubimendi needs to have pressure on someone like Gundogan or someone like Pedri or Gavi. Silva needs to put pressure on the interiors and Lamine Yamal. Mika Faye needs to put pressure on Kubarsi and Araujo. Hector Fort needs to put pressure on Jules Kounde. Xavi Simons needs to put pressure on Gavi. Nico Williams needs to place pressure on Rafinha or Ferran Torres. So hopefully Barcelona can make this happen. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.